Hello YouTube people, in today's video I'm going to show you how this Silk Road styled watch from WM looks like on these custom straps. This video is sponsored by WM. WM has sent me this watch for the video and I get to keep it. Thank you WM. And there is one more thing that I would like to tell you before I begin, is that I told them that they're gonna be complaining about the thickness of this watch in my video quite a bit. Only send me this watch if you are okay with that. And as you see, they still decided to send me this watch, which shows the maturity of the brand in my opinion. It shows that they are not afraid of critique and that they are confident standing behind their product. That's nice, I respect that. Technical specifications and measurements, which I have done myself as always. The weight of this watch, like this, is 83 grams. Diameter of the case is roughly about 41 mm. Diameter of the bezel is exactly 40.3 mm. Lug to lug distance is 47.4. Lug width is 20. Thickness, according to my measurements, is 15.7 millimeters. This watch has 120 click bezel with sapphire insert. The crystal on this watch is also double domed sapphire with rather strong blue anti-reflective coating. Water resistance rating is 200 meters together with a screw down crown and screw down case back, and inside it has NH35A automatic movement. The lume on this watch is green. It is all the same intensity and color on indices and hands. It looks beautiful. I especially love how this index of 12 looks like. The lume is nice. I tried using this watch as my night watch, and in the morning it was a little bit tricky to tell the time. It took me a few extra seconds to actually read the time on this watch. So it's nice, but I wish that it was a little bit stronger. This is how this watch looks like on my 16.5 centimeter or 6.5 inches wrist with its original bracelet. Now, in order to resize this bracelet for my wrist, I had to remove this many links, and links are connected with simple pins. And I would like to point out one rather nice thing, that every single detail on a bracelet that you see is actually separate. This is not one solid piece of metal. Every little thing is actually a separate part. That's rather cool, I must say, and especially when every single little part is this nicely finished. This is very complex, very nice bracelet, I must say. Now, how many links there is still left on a bracelet that could be removed? On this side of the bracelet I could still remove one link, and on this side of a bracelet also seems like I could remove just one more link. And speaking about the clasp, I'm actually one click away from the last position right now. That's it, one link away from the last position. So the end links are solid metal, links themselves are solid metal, and those little bits inside, as you saw, also solid metal. Everything is solid metal and very nicely finished, I must say. It looks really beautiful, and I especially like the integration in the case. The end links follow the contour of the lug cutout very precisely. Very nice fitment on both sides, of course. And sometimes with this kind of design, bracelets tend to sit a little bit awkwardly between first link and second link, like something like that, especially on my small wrist. But with this bracelet I haven't noticed that. It actually tends to sit rather nicely on my wrist. I don't see any excessive gaps. Everything flows just nicely. So this is actually very nicely done bracelet, I must say. And it tapers down from 20 millimeters down to 18 millimeters, giving it a little bit of lightness visually at least. So sides are polished out. And how is the feel? Well, in terms of the sharpness, I would say it's average. You know, I wouldn't call those edges sharp, but they are very, well defined, very angular. I wish they were a little bit more rounded. Well, maybe I could say they're a little bit better than average, okay? A little bit better than average. But overall, it looks wonderful. I love that it has very good articulation, and it has decent flexibility side to side. Usually I don't like bracelets at all. I do find most of them very uncomfortable, but this is one of those examples that I actually don't mind. I actually wear this watch on this bracelet and it feels alright. I can't really complain. It has plenty of flexibility to adapt to my wrist, as you see. That's nice. And one important thing, you know, my size of my wrist is, well, basically S size. So if you have a little bit bigger wrist, it's gonna be even better, I believe. So look how this watch is currently sitting on my wrist. That's actually surprisingly well, surprisingly nice. It looks like this watch is hugging my wrist effectively. This is very surprising because the thickness of this watch is 15.7 millimeters according to my measurements. It's a very thick watch. But it does hug my wrist rather nicely. Look, those lugs are facing down quite well, and it kind of, you know, this is like a little hole on my wrist right there in this place next to my wrist bone, and this case back sits in that somewhat hole. Rather nice, I must say. Look, it sits put on my wrist, this watch, very well. It's very surprising, I must say. I thought this watch is gonna feel like a brick on my wrist, but no, it's actually quite well balanced, especially with this bracelet, I must say. So I'm surprised, but this watch does not feel uncomfortable on my small wrist. I do feel the weight of this watch, as you know, there is no way around it. It's 83-gram watch, which is rather heavy, but as for a diving style watch, no, there is no surprise there. It's actually very well balanced watch on my wrist given its proportions, I would say. The clasp on this bracelet is actually surprisingly good. Well, first thing why it's surprisingly good is because, well, it's on the fly adjustable. About that later on, that's obvious. What's not so obvious is that look how this watch is sitting on my wrist right now, okay? And look at this gap, the connection between the clasp and the bracelet. There is no gap. I mean, when was the last time you saw such a nice connection between the bracelet and the clasp? This is awesome. This is a very nice connection. And the way this clasp locks in place, it feels very robust, very mechanical, and there is like literally zero play. Absolutely zero play. It locks in place and that's it. There is zero movement. And it basically touches the bracelet itself. The fit and fitment, the finishing, this is awesome. This is very well done. Very well done. One of the best easily. Now, the adjustable thingy, on the fly adjustable thingy. So you all know what it is, how it works. So let me just quickly show you. You press this button, you pull the bracelet out and it comes out. But you don't need to press the button in to push the bracelet in like that. It can be pushed in without pressing the button, but you can't pull it out without pressing the button. You push it and then you can pull it out. And for me, that is actually a very nice thing to have on a watch. Two major things why this bracelet is actually wearable for me personally. I usually hate bracelets, but this one actually gets a pass because first of all, it has very necessary, very important side-to-side flexibility, so the watch can actually adapt on my wrist, feel natural, and it doesn't feel like the watch is choking my wrist. That's super important for me. And another thing is that I can adjust the bracelet in the middle of the day. This is awesome. I actually like wearing my watches rather tight. Usually I can't even fit my pinky finger how tight I like them. I just like them sit tight on my wrist, that's all, okay? So it's very important to get a perfect fitment, which with a bracelet is basically impossible unless it has this on-the-fly adjustable thingy, because my wrist changes throughout the day surprisingly quite a lot. It is a little bit swollen in the morning, and in the evening it gets even skinnier. So if I set this bracelet in the evening, okay, yeah, in the evening I feel perfectly fine with the bracelet, but in the morning I put the watch on my wrist and it feels like it is choking my wrist, and it happens with every single bracelet ever made basically. So it's very easy, just one click out and that's it. I'm good, feels perfect. So for me these two things, you know, flexibility and adjustability on the go makes this bracelet actually wearable. I actually like it. It's not perfect though. There are several things to be complaining about. First of all, the bracelet itself, I wish it was a little bit nicer on the skin. It does feel rather sharpish. Even though they are not sharp, those edges, I wish they were a little bit rounded off. That would be awesome. And speaking about the clasp, this part feels nice, this part feels nice, this part feels nice. What doesn't feel nice is actually this little portion, especially when there is this corner. This part is actually sharp. Easy thing to fix, but I still have to show you that if you buy this, you will probably need to finish off this edge with a sandpaper, because I wore this watch throughout the day like that, and just gets a little bit irritating that this part on the super sensitive part of the wrist actually feels sharp, annoyingly so, irritatingly so. That has to be fixed. Another problem is just visual. I mean, just look at this clasp. Do you like how it looks like? I mean, it's super large. It looks very industrial. Even though it has nicely finished edges, it's okay, but it feels like it is a little bit lacking. It could have WM engraving or some stripes engraved into that, breaking down this plain look or something. It you know, visually, at least it is, you know, rather slim and sits very nicely with the bracelet. But the way the you know, this shelf itself looks like, it's a little bit plain, I would say. Speaking about the case, there are two things that I would be complaining about. Is first of all rather obvious, is the thickness. Even though visually it is very well controlled, but still, you know, there is no way around it. 15.7 millimeters in thickness is quite extreme, I must say, even on a diving style watch. And another thing is that the re-hot on this watch is quite deep. But that's not a huge problem, because this watch has double domed sapphire crystal, which is very, very beautiful, by the way, but about that later on. And the thing about double domed sapphire crystal is that it does have a little bit of distortions around the edges, effectively making this deep re-hot somewhat less noticeable. It's still there, it's still kinda, you know, you see that, but underneath the double domed sapphire crystal is not that much of a problem, at least for me. I don't really notice that too much, but still 15.7 millimeters in thickness, you know. But the rest of the deal, you know, with this case is actually awesome. It does have very beautiful shape for the case. I absolutely love that. This is like a pillow kind of shape, but it's chopped off more on the bottom. I like that. So when the watch is sitting on my wrist, it appears to be a lot slimmer than it actually is, because effectively you not only don't see the case back, right, obviously, but you also almost don't see half the thickness of the case itself. So visually it does appear to be quite a lot slimmer than millimeters suggest. So that's nice. Anyway, how the case back on this watch looks like. So those Chinese characters on the case back, according to WM, mean Dunhuang. Yeah, Dunhuang, which means Dun means great and Huang means prosperous. And about that a little bit later. I'm just gonna tell you what it means. Dunhuang. Okay, about that we're gonna talk a little bit later. Right now we'll just take a look at the case. And the complexity and finishing of the case is actually really nice, I must say. Now let's take a better look at this side. So the side itself is polished out. Then on top of this polished out, there is a line going through the case which is brushed. On top of this brushed line we have another line which is polished out and goes till the end of the lugs. And then on top of the case it is brushed again. So it's really complex, you know. Like, look once again, this side which is chopped off is polished out. Then this flat portion, which I struggle to show you, this flat, here you go, probably see a little bit better, is brushed. On top is polished again, then it's brushed again. It's like, this is awesome. I love that. The complexity like that, this is awesome. That's really nice. Besides the thickness, you know, the finishing, the design, the complexity, this is really well done. Really well done. Integration of the crown is also really nice. Big, nice to use crown with the WM logo. That's nice. And another thing, even though, you know, bracelet sits really nicely inside those lugs, yet if you take the bracelet off, the inside of the lugs is nicely polished out. Well, there are lines, yeah, there are lines, but whatever. For example, if you decide to use custom straps on this watch, they are gonna look nice because they gonna reflect in this polished out surface, and the line is straight. So you use simple, you know, straps, and there is not gonna be an excessive gap. That's nice. That's really nice. I'll show you later on. This watch looks rather good on custom straps. And overall, touching this thing, you know, not only looks very nicely done and complex and all that, there is no sharpness. Finally, a watch from AliExpress that doesn't have sharp bottom edges. That's nice. Even lug ends are not sharp. Even inside of the lugs are not sharp. Even these bits are not sharp. This is nice. Finally, somebody finished the case without any sharpness. Well done, WM. Let's take a look a little bit better at the dial, which sits rather deeply, but it sits underneath such a beautiful piece of sapphire crystal that I don't even mind it, you know. This crystal has very nice distortions around the edges, effectively making this deep rehaut somewhat, you know, not annoying. Let's just put it that way. It's still deep, but I don't find it to be annoying underneath such beautiful piece of sapphire crystal. And this crystal has blue anti-reflective coating, and there are certain angles at which the whole perimeter of sapphire crystal just lights up in front of the light in blue. Like, it's difficult to show you a little bit on camera, but in reality and real life, this crystal looks like some kind of soap bubble on top of the watch, and I absolutely love that look. I know some people don't like colorful crystals, but for me it looks just so nice. Not only in front of the light, this crystal basically glows, you know, as I showed you in multiple of my videos already speaking about double domed sapphire crystals, but this one in particular, it has very strong domed effect, which effectively makes this watch look like it's glowing in front of the light. Like it looks really dreamy. Let me play a little bit more with the light, maybe turn off the main lights, giving a little bit more contrast. Take a look at this. This is very beautiful piece of sapphire crystal on this watch. I love it, and it has really decent anti-reflective coating, really good. And I love that in front of a light, look at the perimeter of this crystal, how nicely it lights up in blue. This contour line around the perimeter of the crystal lights up in blue. It looks just so good. I absolutely love it. The crystal on this watch is definitely one of the best, definitely. What you see on the dial is actually the map of the Silk Road. Well, very important part of the Silk Road map. And this little dot right there, I believe, is the city called Dunhuang, which is, by the way, the name of this watch, WM220 Dunhuang series, because Dunhuang was the last large outpost inside China, leading further down the road of the Silk Road. So Silk Road basically starts right there in China. This is that last large outpost inside China, leading further down the road into the bunch of roads which connect, collectively are called a Silk Road. And the reason why this is called a Silk Road is because back then China was the single producer of silk. They were inventors of silk, and they kept the production of silk in secret. So they kept the monopoly of silk production for a long time, and they've been exporting a lot of silk. So that's why this road was nicknamed a Silk Road, and it helped China to build its great presence in global trading economics, you know, as you know, when you think about it, still to this day, nothing has really changed too much. The only thing has changed that me sitting right there in Europe reviewing Chinese products which have not arrived through the Silk Road, but this time they have arrived via air transport. You know, that's basically the only thing that has changed, but China is still major in global trading. So it's really cool to see that used on a Chinese watch. I think it's really fitting. And the pattern on the bezel that you see right there, this Dunhuang city has some beautiful places which are very nicely decorated on walls and ceilings, and some of those decorations have exactly these patterns that you see on Dunhuang series WM watches. So that's not a random pattern, but actually taken from that UNESCO heritage city. So that's awesome, very nice combination. Also pay attention, the index of 12 is golden, and I believe that's probably also something taken from the city, but sorry, I wasn't able to find that exactly. Probably some kind of North Star, I don't know. Looks like a North Star. I like that it's golden. Some people might say that the bezel on this watch is just a decoration, it is basically useless. And you kind of right, but not really. It can be used in 15-minute intervals. You know, first 15 minutes is rather obvious, 30 minutes is, well, obviously the opposite of the pip, and 45 minutes is the opposite of 15 minutes. So in 15-minute intervals it can be actually used. It's a 120 click bezel. It has ceramic insert which is not flat, as you can see, it's a little bit raised and rounded off, and this shape really works together very nicely with this double dome sapphire crystal. It looks really beautifully proportioned, very nice. And how is the action? The action is actually great. It's stiff, there is no free play on this bezel whatsoever. And it sounds nice. It's actually a very nice thing to use. It's just, it's not super useful, you know, in 15-minute intervals, but it does fit the whole overall theme of this watch perfectly. Now let's check the quality control. I have not found any imperfections, any dust particles, any misalignments. Everything seems to be fine. The crown is big and grippy, and it's a screw down crown. It's a nice thing to use, nothing really to complain about. Now let's check the alignment of hands, setting on exactly 6. The alignment seems to be nice and straight according to my eyes. Now let's check how far from the midnight it is going to flip the date. So right now 11 p.m, 11:30, 11:45, and now let's go slowly. It flips 2 minutes away from the midnight. Very nice, respectable result, and I really like the integration of the date window on this watch. It's perfect position in my opinion. On 6 is the correct position for the date window in my opinion, and the date window itself, it does look rather well done. It's nice integration on the overall dial, doesn't really destroy the design, doesn't really poke your eyes. It's a nicely integrated date window. So I'm having trouble trying to record the accuracy on this watch because, I don't know, maybe my phone has been dropped one too many times and can't hear very well anymore, or maybe this thick case just quiets down the ticking sound of this movement so much that the microphone in my phone simply can't pick it up. So what I gonna do, I will open up this watch so maybe the microphone in the phone can pick up the sound after I remove the case back. So let's try now. Plus 5 seconds face up. Plus 2 seconds faced up. And now, how do I secure it? In the crown facing down position, let's try something like this. Okay, and plus 9 seconds in the crown facing down position. Not bad results as from any serious movement, I would say. These are the straps I chosen to show you this watch on, and if you are interested in any of them, you can find them on my website thomaswatchreviews.com. I don't know if such thing as silk straps for a watch exist, but this is the closest thing that I currently have. This nylon strap is very shiny and, as I like saying, silk smooth, which definitely fits the style of this watch with a silk road on the dial, you know. And it looks pretty good, although it's not necessarily how I would wear this watch. It's already rather thick, and putting it on a nylon strap, it erases it even more, so it's not ideal, but you know, I just wanted to show you the idea. Silk smooth strap on a watch that has silk road on the dial, you know. And this is the same strap, except it is green, and that's how it looks like on this watch. This is sailcloth style nylon strap, and I would like to point your attention towards the gap between the lugs, which is polished out. It has lines, polishing is not perfect, but still, I like seeing the reflection of the strap itself in between the lugs, and I like that the line between the lugs is straight, so when you put a custom strap like that, there is no gap. Look, the strap is basically touching the case itself. That's nice. It looks like the fitment is very nice, and I like to see the reflection of the strap itself in the case. So on this strap I think it looks nice. It's a nice combination for this watch. And this is green, vintage style, leather strap with a valve wave top layer. And that's how it looks like on this watch. I kinda like that the pattern of the strap somewhat matches the pattern on the bezel a little bit. I don't know. It looks pretty interesting, I would say. This is the same strap, but this one is brown, and in my opinion, brown together with this green actually looks better than, hold on a second. The thing with a green strap is that color mismatch is very visible and it's don't necessarily look very nice. When green on green and it's different kind of green, I'm not sure about it. But brown looks better. Yeah, brown looks actually nice. Yeah, I like brown better. When green is a little bit mismatched, it's like sometimes it's hit or miss, but brown with green does look pretty well. But how about this shade of green? Well, this shade of green actually matches rather well. This is a Crazy Horse leather strap, and I really like this shade of green. And this kind of saturation and tone I think matches rather well. This one looks actually better than the previous green strap. Yeah, I like this a lot better. And how about yet another green strap? This is tropical style silicone strap. This is a little bit slightly desaturated green. Yeah, I think this one looks also good. Probably even better than the previous strap. Nice, it actually looks nice. And it does feel rather comfortable because the way the strap sits in the lugs, it basically touches the case itself, which locks it in place. And it can't be pointing down, you know? It's locked in place, which effectively makes the strap wrap around your wrist very nicely. So on this particular case, these straps work really well, I must say. This is a very comfortable option for this watch. This is the same strap as the previous one, except this one is white. And I think this watch looks great on a white strap. It does really fit this watch very well. So I think it doesn't even matter what material you're gonna use, a silicone, a leather, or whatever, but white strap does look really good on this watch. Or should I say, this watch looks really good on a white strap. Also, it's very interesting right now to point out that this strap is completely white, pure white. So the dial on this watch in comparison is actually not white. It is a little bit towards the silver. So next to the white strap, you can see this comparison very well. Anyway, on a white strap, this watch looks really nice. And let's try it on a brown strap, the one that has holes. I'm not sure, it's kind of okay. It's okay, let's just put it that way, it's okay. It's not the best, probably. I like it a lot better on a white strap, for example, but it doesn't look bad. And how about this shiny chainmail bracelet on this watch? It does look pretty good, I must say. It doesn't look as good as on the original bracelet, for sure, but it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad at all. And we are back on the original bracelet, and let me tell you something, not only it looks, in my opinion, the best on its original bracelet, but it's also the most comfortable option, because this watch is rather heavy by itself, is 83 grams, that's quite a lot, and 15.7 millimeters in thickness, that's also quite excessive. But on the original bracelet, especially with this big clasp, it kinda counterweighs the weight of the watch and feels a lot more balanced than on anything else, okay? On most other straps, this watch on the wrist just feels like a brick tied to the wrist, you know, it doesn't feel comfortable. The only comfortable options out of the ones that I showed you were only these silicone straps. With these, this watch also feels locked in place just as well as with the original bracelet, but every other strap was feeling just like a brick tied to the wrist, you know. So it's nice. This watch looks the best on its original strap and it feels the most comfortable. For the ending of this video, I would like to touch one interesting subject about the design and origination of the design. You know, there are like two opposite ends of the spectrum. There are Chinese watches that try their best to pretend to be European or American, and for me that's actually cringe, okay? Honestly, that's just straight up cringe, but I tend to close my eyes on that, because at the price point where those watches tend to operate at, there is usually nothing else better to choose. If you want good build quality, nice design, good specifications, I just tend to close my eyes on that fact that it's cringily tries to pretend to be European or whatever. So it's like, okay, let's give it a pass, the price is good enough, okay? But finally, right now, we start seeing watches from China that actually represent China in their design. You know what I'm talking about, this Silk Road theme on this watch. This is simply wonderful idea. This is exactly what I wanna see from Chinese watches. Chinese watches looking like actually Chinese watches with Chinese heritage and history. And for me, this is really cool. This is the opposite of cringe, this watch. This is something that I can actually respect, you know. This is a respectful watch. Not only the design is original, but it's also Chinese design from China, made in China. This is actually awesome. And for me as a Westerner, as European, Chinese history, all the heritage and everything is actually fascinating. It's cool, it's very interesting. I do find it to be exotic. And having something like this, you know, a watch made in China with Chinese symbolism on the watch, this is really awesome. You know, the watch itself isn't really perfect. It's a little bit, well, quite a bit too thick, 15.7 millimeters. I mean, come on. But as a design idea, this is simply wonderful. I wish to see more and more of this. And one thing I would like to point out, WM, if you would like to slim down your watches in the future, please don't do that at the price of the crystal. This crystal, double dome crystal, is just basically as good as it gets. Never swap double dome crystal for the flat one just because you want to get rid of some millimeters of the watch. No, 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 no. Keep this crystal. This crystal is just so wonderful. Only use flat sapphire crystals if that design specifically requires for the flat sapphire crystal. Other than that, no, this is the best crystal there is for a watch in my opinion. But, you know, the final note is the idea for design is basically as good as it gets. I wish to see more of this. and please somehow in the future try to fit your watches within 12 millimeters or something in thickness, you know, that would be wonderful. So that's my conclusions. I think this watch is simply cool, straight up cool, respectful watch. Thank you for watching, have a beautiful day, goodbye.